framework. And I don't see anything wrong in terms of the law as such, because I don't see any other way, or couldn't see any other way. Yes, I may have, people are talking about consulting before or after and so on, but the reality of the matter is that we have a Minister of Police was allowed by legislation, I believe so, and the Constitution, I believe so, and I went on to do this.
Minister, you seem to suggest that interministerial committees get dissolved with elections. It's not, with due respect, interministerial committee is not Minister Mcunu, Minister Akele, Minister, is Minister of Police, Minister of Defense, meaning that minister will always be there even if those individuals are no longer there. Because if you are arguing it that way, that something established on the, during the 6th term, when the 7th term comes in, it automatically gets dissolved. Then you have to make reference, you have to show us where, which terms of reference of interministerial committee said that when the term of political office of certain politicians comes to an end, automatically this comes to an end. Where? Because there's no law that says that. That's why these things are not constituted by individuals. They are constituted by departments which will always be there even when we are no longer there. So part of your handover is Minister of Police. Part of what I'm responsible for is the chairing of interministerial committee that is responsible for political killings task team, amongst other things. These are the people who constitute that interministerial, because you inherit those activities. And when you guys go back and meet together as a collective that represents these departments, you then say, no, we don't think there is a need for this to go on, and therefore let's close this and give the president the report. A person who established the interministerial committee that produced political killing task team has not dissolved the interministerial committee. We only had the announcement of the interministerial committee, but there is no date for the dissolution of the interministerial committee. And therefore, it means you came in and just undermined what has been there. The political killing task team is not only constituted by police. There are prosecutors who are also dedicated to those things. They are magistrate or whatever dedicated to those responsibilities. And therefore, for one single minister to take a decision to dissolve a team that involves other departments, it can't be constitutional. No constitutional power gives you to dissolve a task team members of prosecutors who are dealing with political killings. You can't. No, because you speak about this thing as if it's only police who are involved. That's why it came from interministerial committee. It's a product of interministerial committee because it's constituted by different people, not only the police. And if that is the case, you have no power to dissolve other people who don't belong to your department. What do you have to say about that, Minister?
My response is that there was no interministerial committee in the 7th administration. And interministerial committee is constituted by the President and Cabinet, not by any other person as you wish, or you as you may wish. It doesn't feature, and I didn't have power to call other ministers on the basis that in the 6th administration there was interministerial committee when it is not there. It wouldn't work. It doesn't work.
Minister, is your answer that once the new administration comes in, interministerial committees are automatically dissolved?
That's how it works. Unless the interministerial committees, because they are announced, to say there's an interministerial committee chaired by so-and-so, for what, and so on and so on. These things are announced. They are done deliberately. they don't get, you don't walk into the new administration automatically with what was in the sixth administration. It doesn't work like that.
Do you have a closing report of that interministerial committee? Where, because if you say it dissolves, it must have a closing report that now we're out, the term has come to an end, there will be a new administration, this is how we've dealt with the issues. Where is the closing report of this interministerial committee, which will have, perhaps, amongst other things, inform your decision to dissolve the PKT team?
No, I know that the last time the interministerial committee met was 2023. I know there was a press briefing in March in 2024. I don't have a report of the interministerial committee, closing report or whatever report. All I have is a handover report from former Minister Cele, who was indicating what activities are taking place under his stewardship.
Minister, are you aware that there is a interministerial task team that was established in 2022, is still in place now on traditional leadership? And how many administrations have changed since then?
It would mean that it has featured in all the next administrations,
But
deliberately so, not taken for granted that it exists.
yeah, but you can't show any minutes of cabinet that says in this administration that interministerial committee is dissolved. There is no such a thing. The president doesn't dissolve the interministerial committee. Cabinet doesn't, because if you say the 2022 interministerial task team is featuring in these different administrations, it means this one we're talking about, of political killing task team, did not fall into this new administration. But for it not to fall into this new administration, the cabinet would have had to resolve, or the president would have had to make that decision that this interministerial committee has come to an end. You can't give me all of both the president's minutes or note or the cabinet minutes that says this team, interministerial committee, has since been dissolved. It doesn't belong to us.
Yeah, I don't believe that it works like that, that there's ever a day when you dissolve whatever ministerial committee or task team of cabinet that would have been there. It gets pronounced deliberately in terms of reference and all of those things, and you start working.
Minister, there is no rule you are referring me to. There is no terms of reference you are referring me to. There is no presidential executive decision you are referring me to. Nothing that says the interministerial committee on political killing task team has come to an end. There's no such, and you don't even say it is automatic. And if you say it's automatic, you have to refer me to some binding documents, either the constitution or whatever guidelines or terms of reference that are there. You came in and ignored the interministerial committee and proceeded like it's not there, without anyone saying to you it's no longer there. Two, interministerial committee was not going to convene itself because it was convened by the Minister of Police. Wherever they are still waiting for you to convene them. You are not saying you took an effort to convene them. And they come together and you say to them, guys, this is the end of it. We now are going the separate ways. No closing report, nothing. We cannot have a government that works like that. You can't say to me, it doesn't work like that. The government announces this initiative, and when the initiative has come to an end, they must respectfully come back to the citizens and say, this brings us to the end on this matter. We have since submitted the closing report to the president or something to that effect. If you say this is how you guys have gone about it, that is disrespectful to our society, which knows that there is an interministerial committee that deals with these matters, and then it gets dissolved. It doesn't even have a courtesy of saying goodbye. When it comes in, it knocks. When it leaves, it doesn't say bye. That's a root interministerial committee. So, Minister, you are the one who ignored the interministerial committee and overlooked it and didn't care. Because if you say Minister Cele came and briefed you about this and that, he would have told you, amongst other things I was doing, was to chair the interministerial committee seized with the political killings in KZN. What's your response to that?
My response is the same as said before, that in the 7th administration, you don't have an interministerial committee on the National Political Task Team. And if you say I ignored, you mean to say it was created and I didn't assume or perform my duties as far as that is concerned, after it had been established in the 7th administration. And I'm saying in response, it was not established. So I couldn't ignore something that doesn't exist. And no cabinet. So you are like me. If I can't find a closing report of the interministerial, you can't find it either. I would have been happier if you said, out of my own worry, I went to look for the closing report, I found it, or the minutes, I found them, or whatever you are talking about. Those documents don't exist. And I am not responsible for their non-existence.
So seated here, me and you, there was no date of the dissolution of the interministerial committee of the 6th administration. There was no date of its dissolution. And your argument is, in your 7th administration, there was no establishment of an interministerial committee. Inofella moyeng, so it just disappeared, just like that. After coming up with such a powerful instrument to fight crime in South Africa, and then you come in, the whole thing just disappeared, and you say we must accept that the 7th administration never had a thing. This is the same government, this is the same president who has established the whole thing. You'll expect that there will be a continuity, and if there is no longer a need, then you'll come and say, you come together and say, guys, we no longer need this, we're done. Because we've been canvassing this point with you, Minister. You dissolved the interministerial committee single-handedly because you are the convener. I mean, they never said, Honorable Senzo Mcunu, they said the interministerial committee will be convened by the Minister of Police. And when you came in, you had a duty to convene the interministerial committee. You didn't. You dissolved it, unannounced, and then proceeded to take this kind of actions you took without consultation with anyone.
That's not correct. That's not factual.
But how do you explain?
It's your thoughts,
no, but
and I respect those thoughts.
No, but Minister, how do you explain that a committee that must be chaired by Minister of Police, you come in as a Minister of Police, you don't convene it, and then you say it's automatic that when the new administration comes in, it automatically dissolves. And I'm like, show me the law that says that. You can't point me to any law that says that.
Now, I'm saying you are sharing your thoughts with us, not necessarily talking facts. The fact is, in the 7th administration, there isn't an interministerial committee on National Political Task Team.
So before you dissolve PKTT, such a powerful fighting force against crime, you don't talk to anyone. You don't talk to your colleagues in cabinet. You will say it doesn't work like that. You don't talk to the man who established the interministerial committee which produced this, including your not legal advisor, your special advisor who's an advocate. You don't talk to him. On your own, you take a decision as powerful as this, alone, without consultation. And you want to argue that you consulted the president after the fact. Why? Democracy wouldn't work like that.
We have discussed this thing at some length here in the ad hoc committee, and I referred the committee at the meeting of the 1st of November. and referred also to the meeting of the 22nd of November. And I showed you my comments, or the Honorable Committee, my comments there in those two meetings, and the comments made by the National Commissioner. Now, you can't then say you never discussed with anybody, you alone, when in fact minutes are there indicating very clearly, black and white, that we were in a meeting, we discussed, and I have said, long before I arrived, there was a study which was for all practical purposes intended to be brought into existence and replace the National Political Killings Task Team. And I said again, before I arrived, there was a memorandum that was asking for an extension, but in fact asking for a funding of 94 million. And 20 million was advanced to that team before I arrived. So I'm not the first one who come and I talk about disbandment. And further to that, I'm saying there have been pressures that have become prominent in terms of what is expected of a Department of Police, in terms of bringing down crime generally, but even specific matters. And long before I arrived, there's a structure that is being done, completed, implemented. In fact, in 2024, there was an implementation document signed and put in the office or on the table of the National Commissioner. And it was not processed for over a year until it gets processed in 2025. Now, all those things will tell you that there was always an intention to disband or to dissolve the National Political Killings Task Team based on what people were doing at that time. So I come at some point and I found all these intentions in writing, not in theory, coupled with what I then do in terms of analyzing the situation. And I did speak here that 35% of killings in South Africa come from organized crime. 34 come from taxi violence. And 24 come from political killings task team. And I said about 7 come from personal killings. So when you discuss a matter like this, you have to put it into context. You don't isolate it. You don't single it out as if minister was appointed to preside over the National Political Task Team. There was a whole department, the whole functionality of police, and the minister was allowed to think anew and make your own contribution that you believed would work, and not merely say, I'm continuing with what has happened, despite the imperatives, even the new objectives outlined by the president. You don't do it like that. You apply your mind, you discuss, you change even the structure. What are you going to say about the structure? The departmental organogram. Do you say, I didn't consult when I dealt with the new structure, trying to make it adapt to the new conditions? You're not going to say so. So don't single out one thing. Take everything that we have done in the department and not therefore say, just because of the way in which we dealt with National Political Killings Task Team, then every other thing doesn't count. It can't work like that.
So, Minister, Brown Mokhodzi is not your close associate, he's your comrade, who you have his phone and you communicate and all of that. What is the difference between a close associate and comrades? Are we not just playing with semantics? Because you denied that is your close associate, but you talk on the phone, you've got phone numbers of each other. What is the difference there between, because you denied in the committee on the 5th of March. And then now you agree, he's my comrade, I've known him from 2017.
Now-
What is the difference?
I have so many people, just to put it simply.
No, even before you proceed, I heard you giving example with Honorable Bredenbach, like, saying, like, I know you, but we know you know her, the same way you know all of us, but you can't claim to be a comrade of Honorable Bredenbach or anything of that sort, but you know her. And you can't claim to have her number and you communicate constantly and all of that, but when we bring it to you that you are a close associate, you say, no, I'm not a close associate, I'm a comrade. That is playing with semantics.
No, not at all. I deny that strongly. It doesn't work like that. On my cell phone, I can't tell you offhand how many people I have as contacts, as written on the cell phone, names and surname and numbers. Some of the numbers, or many of the numbers, I've held for many years. Now, I'm not being asked questions why I keep those numbers, why I talk to those people, why I use those numbers. And I want to guess, and I'm merely taking a chance. You also have quite a lot of people on your cell phone who are there. Now, I don't know why I'm being asked to display is that sothando for Mkhozi. Now that there are problems arising in that angle, people want you to confirm, come here and say, cha nginesitata sothando luka Mkhozi or sokwazana nomkhozi. Alukho. And ayikho leyo contact ongayibeza uyibeke ku status of an associate, even referring to the dictionary what an associate is. The person who chose to say I'm Mkhozi's associate would have consulted the dictionary and he knew what he was saying. And when I go there myself, I shouldn't be blamed for doing what they did. And then using that word. I'm using the same word, the same term. And I'm saying I'm not. And I'm saying, if everybody you call, just because they are on your cell phone, so you're all my associates. So let's bring everything to a standstill and say, all right, Mkhozi is my associate. And I'm saying he is not my associate. I've never gone anywhere with him. Restaurant, sit down anywhere. It has never happened beyond just phoning. So I don't know why I would be associated to somebody that I'm saying myself. I'm not. If, for instance, somebody I know passes on, and I go to some funeral, and you find that in a funeral there is somebody who is a fugitive of law, or is an alleged criminal or something like that, what do? You run away? You don't stay for the whole funeral. You stay. But are you not associating yourself with somebody alleged to be a criminal? If pictures of you come to the public knowledge that you were there at the funeral, surely you have something to. And there needs to be substance when you say this person is associated to this person. I don't have any substance. Mkhozi phoned General Mkhonazi a number of times, even congratulated him, according to him, for something. I've never heard that kind of message from Mkhozi. I don't mean other things that you see and they look like they are many. I mean, things like Lusikisiki, they don't exist. That thing doesn't exist.
No,
That thing in Cape Town doesn't exist.
Minister, no, I understand, but you can't say to us, I don't understand why you bring Mkhozi here and all. We didn't bring Mkhozi here. It's Mkhozi who brought you. It's Mkhozi who shared.
Honorable member, let me just hold you for a moment and take Honorable Nomval.
Yes, Chair. I just need some clarification on the minister's version based on a proposition that has been put to him by Honorable Malema on the lack of consultation. When the minister responded, he referred to a meeting. He said, I did explain that there is a meeting that took place on the 1st of November. In some instance, when the minister was asked by the evidence leader about consultation, he said he didn't consult because of the nature of complaints that were forwarded to him. There are some complainants who requested not to be revealed. So for that reason, he decided not to consult. Now, which version do we put on record here, Minister? Did you consult or you did not consult because of the nature of complaints that were forwarded to you? I just want to get a clear clarification, Chairperson, so that I correct what he says. I record what he says correctly.
What was the question, Honorable Ma'am?
The question, Minister, is that you have given two clarifications on one subject. You have responded differently to one question which asked about your consultation, whether you did consult before you took a decision to disband on the 31st of December. Honorable Malema had put a proposition to say you took a decision alone, and you replied today by saying that no, there was a meeting that took place on the 1st of November.
Yes, I
When the
understand the
evidence
question.
leader is,
I
I want to
understand the
give you
question.
another statement that you made, which contradicts what you have said today.
Now,
When the evidence leader was asking,
No, I now understand.
okay,
Yeah. Now, evidence leader spoke about General Masimula many times. He spoke about General Mkwanas a number of times. He spoke about General Kumalo a number of times. And I did say, no, I didn't consult them a number of times. This is not what Honorable Malema is saying. He's coming from a different perspective with his question. And he contextualizes differently. And I've got to adapt my responses to that. Now, I'm not making reference to the meeting of the 1st and the meeting of the 22nd for the first time, now that I'm being asked by Honorable Malema. It's not like that. I made them consistently throughout this conversation with the ad hoc committee. So I don't want to add anything new other than what I've said. I think you have to remind yourself about the context and the exact questions that were asked.
so who attended the meeting of the first minister? The meeting of the first that you made a reference to, the meeting of the 1st of November.
We went through exactly that, and I have nothing to add again on that first meeting of November.
Well, if that is a response, Chair, then there's nothing I can do, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Let me hand back to you, Mkhalaka, to conclude your questions.
You said I've got until what time? Or past 7?
Your time ends at 20 past 7.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I will be done by that time. Minister, you seem...
It's for the two of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 2 in 1. Minister, you seem to be have ever claimed to have received a letter of the 31st of December from you. None of those people you have as your contact that we are not questioning you about have never claimed that they've asked money from Matlala to buy a table for you for the ANC dinner here in Cape Town in the January 8 rally or something like that. And none of those people in your contact have ever claimed that to Matlala that issue that has been troubling you of PKTT, that has been abusing you, is being dissolved. I've got a letter here. Now, it is your comrade. It's not us. It is your comrade who does that. And
Yes.
even goes around says,
Yes.
yeah, I'm his comrade, this and that and all of that. So we cannot
Yes.
be blamed when we take up an issue with you sharing a sensitive document. The only person who has confirmed the relationship with Mkhotsi, it's you, Minister. And Mkhotsi is in position of a sensitive letter that comes from you. And any reasonable person will be tempted to agree that perhaps the minister shared this letter with Mkhotsi, since Mkhotsi has got, within amongst these three, the close relationship is is with the minister through comradeship. You don't call all those people you have. I've got contacts here. Some I even forgot, but I don't call them. I don't share any sensitive information with them unless those people are known to me and I'm confident and I know that I can describe my relationship with those people. Let's say, for instance, I've got General Sibia's number, like I do with many generals and ministers and deputy ministers. But I can't claim to be a friend, and Sibia can't claim to be my friend. But I know him. I will call him on matters of the police that I think, look, there is this issue and it seems like you're not paying attention and anything of that sort. I can't deny that, but to stretch it to comradeship, to stretch it to friendship, none of us can claim that kind of a relationship between us. But you have said, this is my comrade, and this your comrade says, the minister is now dissolving that thing that has been giving you nightmares. The minister wants us to buy a table. The minister this and the minister that. When we come to you, say, this guy says he knows you, and he goes around saying the following things about you. Say, yeah, it's my comrade, but I don't know what he's talking about. It's a bit troublesome, Minister.
Now, generally, what you are saying, I agree with. That there are specific things that are being done by Mkhotsi according to his behavior and all of that. And that generally other people that I've contact with, they don't behave like Mkhotsi. I believe, I accept that. But specifically, I'm saying I'm aware of things that I wasn't aware of about Brown Mkhotsi since 2017. 2018, I didn't become aware of what I'm aware of now and all the time. So now that I'm aware of what he associates himself with in terms of activities, in terms of what he says, in terms of the people that he links up with, it has become public. It's a different matter altogether. And I'm conscious about that. Very, very conscious about that. And very worried. That's why I said to the evidence leader, when he asked me that question, I said, I'm worried about that. Because to me, it signifies a very, very drastic change from the time I got to know Mkhotsi to what I now know about him. And Now, it shouldn't be like all the time I was aware or I've been aware of these things. People do change, or you do become aware of things that you wouldn't want to associate yourself with, or even if it's at a comradely level, because you don't expect those things to be done by people who call themselves comrades. But it shouldn't mean that I'm part of what he is doing or has been doing. And it shouldn't be assumed that all these things that are being revealed now, I'm part of them. I'm not part of them. I'm not part of them. And I'm not part of them. And I couldn't be part of that.
I accept that, Minister.
I don't have such a history myself. And I'm worried about it.
I accept that you're saying you're not part of that, and you are not aware of what this character that you refer to as a comrade is like, that the conduct is displaying now and all of that. You are not aware of this from
Absolutely.
2017.
Absolutely. And I'm
Now you
honest about
realize
it.
there is a character here that is going around in my name. What did you do about it? Did you, but for instance, let's say 31st December, the letter goes to the special advisor. From there it goes to chief of staff. Then it finds itself in Mkhotsi's hands. And Mkhotsi sends that to Matlala and he says, we're done. This thing is done. You're no longer going to be troubled. When a character like that starts engaging in that kind of an activity, as a minister, what initiative did you take to really find out as to how did this guy get hold of this letter of mine? Because I'm now realizing he's using my name wrongly. What have you done about that?
Firstly, before I come specifically to that, you must have heard that General Mkunu did say that this letter also did reach him. I'm sure you remember that. That he got it from Khotsi.
He said Mkhotsi sent it to him.
Okay. So I don't know, well, I don't seem to have that understanding. But fine. Now, at some point, I think, I can't say which month, but it is this year. Somebody said to me, Brown Mkhotsi seems to be dropping your name at different places with different people. I called him after that to say, there is a person here who tells me, you drop my name wherever you are. And he denied it. He denied vehemently, saying that, no, Minister, they were not talking about me. It's not me. And at that time, I wasn't aware of WhatsApps, his relationship with Matlala, his many other things that have come to be known. So I was also just talking on what I had heard, not knowing the substance.
No, I agree, Minister. I don't have time. I'm not talking about when you didn't know. I'm talking about a period when you have known that this person was also in possession of a sensitive letter that deals with issues of crime.
Yes,
So
I was coming to
once
that.
that was picked up, what have you done about it?
I was coming to that. I phoned him to say, I seem to get the fact that you got into possession of this letter. How did he said, no, this thing was full in social media. I picked it up from social media. That was the response he gave me.
As a minister of police, with crime intelligence, with all manner of investigating powers and all of that, you take no initiatives except to call me and say, no, I hear you got a hold of my letter. How did you get it? I say, I got it on social media, and you leave it at that. Because I'll tell you why. We are in this situation, amongst other things, because of this letter. And therefore, a serious effort should have been put in place. If we're taking this ministerial position serious, we should have put some serious investigation in place as to how does my letter find itself in Mokgotzi's hand, and Mokgotzi says it was in social media. How do we track that all the way to the original source? The only thing you know, you guys, is to retrieve seen once WhatsApps. You can't trace a letter that comes from your office. Because electronic documents are traceable, that they're from here to here to here. You make no effort. Even when you have now realized this thing has put us to where we are now. That you write a letter, we have no problem with that. We can debate the legality of it. Mokgotzi takes a letter, send a letter to Matlala. He says, that thing that was troubling you, we've dealt with it. Here's a copy of the letter. That alone should have told you, man, we're dealing with a serious syndicate here. I'm trying to resolve issues of the police, only to find that unwittingly or wittingly, I now find myself entangled in the cartels. Because Mokgotzi put you in the cartels, and that should have concerned the Minister of Police and say, we should be on top of this issue and find the person from my office, either the acting commissioner's office, either the commissioner's office, either the chief of staff, either the special advisor, or Ngabinde, my chief of staff. There must be a leakage there. And this leakage finds an expression in the hands of the cartels. That should have troubled the minister, as much as it's troubling us, ordinary people, because when that was heard, when General Mcunu addressed the press conference, everybody said, no ways. Something ought to have been done. That's how South Africans felt. You should have felt somehow like that before, when you discover that your letter that deals with sensitive matter is now in the hands of criminal cartels. And therefore I want to find out who did that.
Now, it's not true what you are asserting, that you didn't do anything. But I take it that you are asking a question. What is it that I did? Firstly, I did phone him to say, how did this happen? That's the first thing. And he explained to me as I've explained. And so I kept quiet about it. But when then matters came after 6 July, first thing I did, I called him. Oh, so you are all over, and I hear this and I hear that. And his response was, no, Minister, leave those matters with me. General Mcunu is not speaking the truth. So I then said, fine, but on my own, I am investigating the matter, not through crime intelligence, through a private investigator. That is what I'm doing, and that matter is in progress. I don't want to say anything further because of the reasons that you are talking about. I am interested not just on how he landed the letters, but other matters that relate to that.
Minister, the Chief of Staff makes, through General Mcunu, they came to see you at your home, stayed in KZN, flew all the way, and then from there, he meets General Mcunu. He says, no, I want to introduce you to the Minister of Water Affairs. And then General Mcunu says to this guy, how do you know the minister? No, when we're in IPIT, he was a person of interest. And then we went there to check him up, and I actually helped him with the matter we're investigating, and so in a way he owes me a favor that I've done some work to protect him. We had a case or something like that. It says that to General Mkwanaz, which he came and said it here. And then from there, today we hear that no, there were stories that you killed one of the bodyguards and things like that. And then you complained about that, and then they came to see you and all of that. Do you think that it was, and given what he has been saying, I mean, he has also been communicating with General Mkwanazi about issues that are in your office, and then he will take from General Mkwanazi and speak to you and all of that. And I put it to General Mkwanazi that perhaps this guy played both you and the minister. He said to the minister, no, I'm going to bring the general of the police to you, he's my guy, this and that. You're like, oh, okay, no, that's fine. It's always good to know people. Then he says to General Mkwanazi, no, I'm going to take you to Minister of Police, he's my guy, I once helped him with something, blah, blah, blah. And now all these kind of stories are coming out about him. On hindsight, do you think it was a correct decision to appoint him as a chief of staff?
Now, firstly, I need to correct or put things my own way. I don't think it was a question of my guy, because I don't have evidence for that. But what I think happened, they spoke, because they came in one car. They spoke themselves before to say, maybe they need to come and see me and we'll have a chat. It was not my initiative. It was an initiative of one of them. I don't know who. I didn't ask that question. But Kabinda did tell me that, inform me that they've had a chat and they would want to come for a light chat. And they did. From where I sit, I was getting troubled by a number of incidents in eThekwini relating to their Department of Water. I don't know how many people had been killed, but I know that they went up to 7 people who were getting murdered because of this and that and so on. So I thought that it would be important to take the opportunity and have an informal chat so that in future, when we deal with these matters, it's somebody I know face to face. We've had the discussion face to face. Now, you are now saying, so that's what happened. You are now saying, with hindsight, do I think it was a good thing to do so? Take Kabinda's. Now, I am looking at it. I have had a chat with Kabinda to say, what about this? What about that? And so on. We're discussing that matter. I haven't reached a conclusion amidst these all things that it was wrong or right beyond just recognizing that procedurally he followed all the procedures in human resource. It is the same as Mkhotsi. With hindsight, would I have maintained his number and contact? It is the same thing that is that I'm reviewing seriously to say, when we started and got to know each other, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, and so on. I wouldn't want to have contact with somebody who does 1, 2, 3, and so on. I'm thinking, and therefore those matters are under review. I haven't concluded because I haven't, seen, taken the whole matter. We're in the middle of a number of issues currently. So it would be premature to take such a decision at the moment. But it does crop up in my mind.
Minister, when they were searching General Sibia, taking their gadgets, and Gabinde also had a press conference claiming he's being harassed and things like that, did the police come and take your gadgets? Were you part of the people that were searched by police and gadgets taken from them in the recent past?
I'm told they came to the gates of Pranchiron, the government estate within which I live. They didn't get to the house, and I was just told that they came and they said they were wanting to search and seize my gadgets.
So your house you are referring to is a house in the Matlabandlov, not far from the president's house in a government complex in Pretoria. Is that the house you are referring to?
Yes, a house in that Pranchiron.
And when they came to do search and seizure, whatever they were coming to do, they were stopped by police from coming to do their work at the gate in a government complex. Am I right? Police were stopped by police. How does that reflect on the police? That police are coming, surely they've got some form of warrant to come and search and seize certain things. And then in the performance of their duty, other police stop them. Is that not a reflection of deep-seated divisions in the police, and to an extent that it looks like you receive certain preference? I mean, IPT comes to your house. When police come to search you, police stop them from the gate. Never search about which are my police, what, but you can't be searched. There's police there. When you've got a complaint, police come to you at your house. Is that not some kind of an abuse of office and some privilege that we don't have? Because everybody got searched, including a general of the police himself got searched. But the minister was supposed to be searched, and police stopped other police from executing their work. As a minister of police, you are a minister of police. Is that a good reflection of the image of the police?
I'm not informed, as you are, or as you may be, that they had a search warrant. I'm not informed about that. I'm not informed that they produced the search warrant, as you are saying. So until I'm told otherwise, I will then be able to answer your question. But so far, my take is that they didn't have, or they didn't carry with them, because they would have produced it, and nobody would have prevented them from coming, as it happened. But what I'm informed as well is that when they went to Gabinde first, they didn't carry any search warrant, and when they came for the second time, they had the search warrant. But the search warrant they had was dated the day they went there, not the day before, which was evidence that they didn't have. And therefore, it's a subject of another matter, that matter. But it's not because there's any privilege whatsoever. It's not because there's any other thing. It was just that, for now.
But okay, if that is the case, is that not rogue? Like police just rock up in a minister's house without a search warrant, rock up at people's houses. If that is not you abusing privilege, then it is them abusing their power. Because if they go around searching people's houses without proper court documents, it's not in line with what's supposed to happen.
It will come up, and all of us will get to know at some point in the near future what exactly happened. But I didn't do anything to prevent them from coming. But you must understand that part of what we have as a challenge is unlawful arrests and litigations that are all over, causing us to have a lot of concern about similar activities where police act unlawfully themselves, and there's evidence to that effect.
So, Minister, do I understand you to be saying, when you referred, was it Patricia, the lady to IGI, you were referring the matters she raised about intelligence, or were you asking Inspector General to profile her? Because I don't think it's a job of inspector, it's an Inspector General of Intelligence. So I don't think his job is to profile individuals. His job is to make sure that he protects the integrity of the intelligence structures in the country. So was this assignment to investigate what Patricia raised, or was this assignment to profile Patricia?
Look, she was frequently talking about intelligence, some documents, some information, and so on. So I say to IGI, can you check this individual? I don't know her. I've never spoken to her. I didn't say how. He would know how. He would, for instance, have chosen to go to crime intelligence himself to say, can you do 1, 2, 3? I'm interested in this, or the minister is interested in this. But that's how I dealt with it, because I just wanted to know at that stage, how does she get seemingly to be in possession of some documents, some information on crime intelligence? He is Inspector General of Crime. How he would go about doing his work, I wasn't necessarily to be part of that. And if he had a problem of mandate on that, he would have said, no, I don't deal with that. He didn't say so.
My last question, Minister, is, do you think the NPKTT did a good job or not?
I think they did a good job in the context in which they were doing. Because
So why do you fix it when it's not broken?
it is that context as part of the factor. They were created to deal with political killings in the main councillors. They then added Amakosi after that, in Duna. They then added other crime activities like Forte, which I don't believe had anything to do with politics and so on. Maybe, I don't know. But they were directed by the president to do that and so on. Now, over time, there's been decline of political killings in KZN in particular. And as one of the factors, they've played a role, but there are other factors. Now, numbers keep on going down, especially after 2023. Now, to a point where in 2025, in March, we were told about one fresh matter. It was early, first 3 months of the year, one matter. I don't know now. But we were told in the same meeting about 7 fresh matters in 2024. And in 2023, that's when the decline started, and so on. At some point it occurred, but it went up a little bit in 2021, and so on. Now, looking at all other factors that have gone through, budget, structures, all of that, I then made that observation that we need to review, as I said in November in the 2 meetings, and seeing also that this was never meant to be permanent, and there have been extensions. So that they did work in the context of what they were dealing with And I do want to emphasize for our consciousness that they were dealing, the other context that is important to note is that there are many killings in the country and in KZN, far more than those that were dealt with by political killings. Now, to a point where you then find discomfort that we may keep on saying the National Political Killings Task Team is doing very well, but the figures of murders are going up in the same province, clearly showing up. And other killings in the category, other categories like organized crime and taxi violence keep on. Now, how do you justify that when other people are being killed in large numbers, you keep on getting interested to the point that you want to keep the national political killings? Absolutely no justification. Despite doing, we are not denying that they did well. You rather want to take the model and see how you spread it than saying, no, let's continue with that, because it's unjustifiable. Unjustifiable. If you look at the expenses, about 415 million from 2018 to now. Count that they've been doing a good job, so you don't have a grievance as it is. But once figures go down to the extent that it has happened, surely it was a factor that you needed to factor in terms of how you use resources. If you are interested in bringing down the murders of other people as a matter of duty and the very constitution that we are talking about.
Now, lastly, Minister, what you don't think on a hindsight, and given the outcry and the whole up and downs that we have now, that you could have handled the process, the consultations, and everything else differently, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we are now? The letters could have been written during business hours, normal business days, and consultations could have taken place sufficiently, and everybody taken on board with all of these good intentions that you're saying you have. Because if they are so good, you have to carry everyone along and make them understand where you come from, process them, and especially the president who now takes an initiative like this, and only to hear about it in the papers that that initiative is no longer there, and you now confirm it, that I actually briefed him or consulted him, which I don't think is a consultation. I briefed him after the fact. Don't you think with all of this, you could have handled this differently and in a more consultative and democratic manner that takes everybody along, and we don't feel like you are abusing a power or you're exercising a power you don't have? Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Well, the last part that you end up with is the one that I'm contesting, but let's leave that. There's no way I can stand up here and say I couldn't have handled it differently. There's no way. But there are two ways in which, or two things that cropped up after I wrote the directives. The one reaction is by National Commissioner, which, if that was the way, the only way, there wouldn't have been any problem. There wouldn't have been any problem, wouldn't be here for any reason, because those matters were going to be handled the way they were, things were developing. But then there was another development led by Provincial Commissioner General Mcunu, premised on the fight back, premised on issues that I must only continue doing what I'm doing and not withdraw if I know I'm clean, and all those matters, including gloves are off. So that was the second way, parallel way of. So if I had anticipated that other way, that there would be a reaction, I would have handled it differently. But I would still have believed that it was time we reviewed this matter on merit and on facts, and it would have been justifiable. And perhaps it is handling that would have been different. So on one hand, things were meant to work well, and on the other, they were not meant to work well. And that's why we're here.
No, sorry, Chair. I still have some minutes. I'm just asking.
The time left is
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Minister, I'm happy you raised this matter. Why would someone who says, if you are clean, go on, and then you see that as a threat? Because we get told that nonsense all the time. Malema is not there because he's not clean, he meant severe, and then I must be threatened by that.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not
if someone
talking
says to you, if you are clean, go on, and let's see what happens. I'll never see that as a threat because I'm clean. Actually, I'm continuing so that you can take whatever you want to take against me.
It's
if I
fine.
know I'm clean, I will never be blackmailed. If that is kind of a blackmail or a threat, why would you take something like that as a threat where a person says, if you were clean, go on, and you say, I'm being threatened? You're not being threatened. He's right. If you are clean, go on. And you are going on because you think you are clean. You have nothing to hide. You have never retreated from what you are doing because someone said, if he's clean, let him proceed. I don't think that is a threat.
It's not a threat in a sense, but it is in a sense. Because
Now you're speaking like an ANC politician.
no.
Now. It's not a threat in a sense, it's a threat in a
yeah,
sense.
let me finish. Let me finish. It is in another sense because it sends a message that say, right, go on with this, not because it is illegal, not because it is, go on with it, not because it is illegal, not because it's unconstitutional, but I will see if I will check on your cleanliness. So it smacks of some covered kind of message meant to compromise you, not on principle. This was based on principle. It was not, I wasn't saying because I'm clean or because I'm not clean. Because it was not because of me. I was doing it on principle, based on the scarcity of resources that we were directed to ensure we use them optimally. Now, I have never tried to do, I've always made an effort throughout as MEC, as Premier, Minister, and so on. I've never been under any investigation whatsoever. Now, because of those efforts, now, when somebody talks about something that I have never heard before, that now let's see whether he is clean. Well, that doesn't mean that I was threatened to a point where I was, that you are putting it. Not necessarily in that context. But I was saying, why is Provincial Commissioner issuing that kind of warning or something? Because I'm doing a job in the belief that it is correct to do so, legally and otherwise. Why is it taking personal interest and taking personal stride on this matter? Is it because of the other thing that I'm observing? I've observed that Provincial Commissioner of KwaZulu-Natal, General Mcunu, is quite what English word do I use on crime intelligence in the country. He is, there's a word I wanted to use, which I think it fits in, but he is quite, he has quite a presence, more than any other provincial commissioner, on the matters of crime intelligence. And I'm observing that, and it's not according to the structure, it's not according to procedure. Head of crime intelligence reports to the national commissioner. But I listened to General Mcunu indicating, or in the commission, talking about counterintelligence in Gauteng, intelligence in Gauteng, and then intelligence nationally, crime intelligence
Minister,
nationally, and then report going to him.
Honorable Minister.
So I'm
Honorable
concerned
Minister.
about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The time has expired. Honorable Skosana, you are
I was disturbed a bit, though I wanted a clarity, but I'll add on that in a second. You know, when we were sitting in I just want the minister to clarify, on our meeting on the portfolio committee of police, the question of Mukhosi you were asked. Mukhosi was a coordinator or a chief lobbyist for CR17, like you in the KZN when you were the chief lobbyist as well, in that 1 billion rand campaign, which to me suggests two things. Maybe because you denied knowing him, it's a fact.
No, I object to that.
No. Yeah, you'll answer me because I was in that meeting. Remember, and some of the members of the portfolio were in that meeting. You know, you said yourself, and if you want us to play that, I'm not sure whether the chair will allow us to do that, because you said you don't know him. In fact, this morning you said there's a picture WhatsApp. Maybe we're talking about that person on the WhatsApp. No, we're talking about Brown Mukhosi. You said you don't know him. Now,
I object
maybe
again. It's not true.
No, it's
what
fine.
You are saying.
It's fine. We'll prove that to you, Minister. You know, did you know each other before at that campaign, or you only know him now when there was an issue of letters which Mkhosi told the nation about, which we are concerned about, that letter of disbanding the PKTT. Okay. And my last one, because we don't have time, I was a bit disturbed, Minister, because I've opened that case where the police were denied even to go and search your house. It's disturbing. And I think Honorable Malema is correct, that unless there's rogue, or we are not equal in this country, that if they have to come to my house, there's no one who will stop them. Why, when they have to go to your house, they were stopped? It tells you that there's something somewhere, maybe they were instructed not to do. And I said to you earlier about the IG of Patricia Machale, that why have you consulted the IG instead of the crime intelligence boss? Thank you, Chair.
Yes, if we can get the questions that you need clarity.
No. You know, members cannot answer. I know it's their comrade, but they should not get involved. The minister is capable of answering all my questions. My question was simple. Did you know Mukhosi before, during that time when you were chief lobbyist and he was a chief lobbyist of the CR17, or you only know him now? That was a clarity which I wanted to know.
No, listen to me, honorable member. Ask one question, the minister responds, and yes.
Question now, Mkhosi lo umazi nini? Umazi ngayilesa sikhathi ngo-2017.
I've heard your question.
No, they said I must ask you again.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now ngizama ukubuya macingwane ukuthi umazi ngalesa sikhathi ku campaignwa for i-2017 wena u-campaigner on behalf of President Ramaphosa at that time. nge-campaign leya ye-1 billion, if you remember it, Umkhotsi was a chief lobbyist ngale e-Northwest, wena ubungapha KwaZulu-Natal. Umazi ngaleso sikhathi na?
Yeah, I can't leave what you are pasting. You do a lot of cutting and pasting as you move with the question. I now need to remove those pastings that you are making. First, well, I don't know him as a chief lobbyist anyway, even at that time. But I got to know him, or I saw him for the first time in 2017. Second issue, I want to cut the paste out. I never said in Parliament on the 5th of March, and it is in my affidavit, sworn in. I never said I know Brown Mkhotsi in that portfolio committee. It is in my affidavit. I've even written a letter to the Speaker to say, I submitted my affidavit in July. I haven't heard anything up to now. That's why, because there is no decision and finality on the matter, you are able to talk about it freely, as you say. And that's not fair to continue to say this on something that I have already submitted. I've been directed to submit an affidavit to the relevant people. And I've done so in compliance, but you are poking it, and it's unfair. Now, so in my affidavit, I say, I don't know. I never said I don't know Brown. I said he is not my associate. And I have explained there on that the person that I was looking at in the picture on the cell phone of that person is in KwaZulu-Natal, was not Brown Mkhotsi. There's nowhere where I say I know Brown Mkhotsi. Now, I was just removing that. And then
Chair, sorry.
there's then the issue of my
Minister.
house.
Sorry, Minister. He says, Minister, there's no way he says he knows Brown Mkhotsi now. So is that what we are saying to us?
Saying what?
No, I want that door. Please, can you protect me, Chair? No.
Honorable-
Hence, I'm asking, if I don't hear you, I'll ask you. And I should be protected. I should not be intimidated by other members.
Honorable members,
Please,
honorable members.
please.
Hello, Honorable Skosan.
No, but Sangweni is intimidating me. Is busy answering the Honorable Sangweni. Is busy answering, intimidating me.
I want you to listen here.
Please, Chair.
As the chair of this committee, I respect all of you and
Thank you, Chair.
and treat you equally. So when I call on a member, I expect the member to listen in the same way I sit here the whole day listening to members speaking and allocating them time to speak. Please, that is the request that I'm making. So I have given you a chance to ask questions. And I want to discourage you from debating the questions with the witness. Let's allow the witness to respond to the last question on the alleged privileges that you have asked.
I thank you, Chair, but please as well, can you please reprimand Honorable Sasangweni? Because I'm talking to the Minister, he's intimidating me.
I am reprimanding all of you.
No, but you never reprimanded her, Chair.
I am reprimanding all of you. You know, when you are on the platform, you are speaking, and then another member appears to be disrupting you, you react to that. You have been at that team, you know. I issue 2 yellow cards as the referee. Because the referee has spotted the offense, allow the referee to act. So if you react, I issue 2 yellow cards. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, did you still remember the last question? That the police came to your house and they were stopped. What is your response about it?
Yes. The word I was looking for earlier on is overbearance. that I tend to observe overbearance on the part of the Provincial Commissioner of KZN on crime intelligence matters. And in my view, where I stand, it is not a healthy practice. I just want to make that comment and pass. I think I've dealt with the frills that he threw while he was, except one, his concern about that incident in Pretoria. I've clarified the matter that I never knew that there were police officers coming to my house. I was never informed, nothing. I only got to know after the incident. Now, if the honorable member is a concern, I think you are at liberty to find out on your own in terms of what happened.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mngango, from here, it's 8:30. You will hand over to Honorable Vessels up until 9:15. Thank you. That time ends at 8:30. He's starting now. And Honorable Vessels will take us from 8:30 to 9:15.
Well, thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable colleagues, and greetings to Honorable Minister Mcunu. I will not dwell much on the issue of the constitutionality of the directive of the minister to disband, because I believe that that point has actually sufficiently covered. And I do want to align myself with those who actually feel that the minister overstepped his actually constitutional authority on the matters of the police operations. But I do want to zoom in on the issue of the establishment of the PKTT, not because I come from KwaZulu-Natal, but listening to the statement which was actually made by the Honorable the State President when he was in Pietermaritzburg visiting the family of the deceased councillor there. He actually did not mince his words in saying that he feels that there has to be an intervention to address the political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. And then he put together the interministerial committee. Now, therefore, I'm not entirely happy when the minister keeps on saying PKTT was a national. It may have assumed that character later on, but it was ostensibly, established to deal with political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. Because of its success, then that is why it was roped in to go and assist in the Eastern Cape in relation to the matter that affected the developments in Fort Hare, and that is why a group of them were sent to Gauteng, which I will deal with later. So I wonder if the minister would have any any say to that the PKTT was established ostensibly to deal with political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. Would you agree with that, Honorable Minister?
I agree with that. It's a national political killings task team. established to deal with issues that were emerging in KZN in 2018. And therefore the whole focus was in KZN.
Thank you. And it was actually established as a multidisciplinary task team, which actually included, among others, the NPA. Why? Because when the state president actually announced the establishment of the interministerial committee, he did not mention ministers by name. He actually constituted the IMC with ministries. He quoted the Ministry of Police, Ministry of Justice and Correctional Services, Ministry of State Security, etc. So, therefore, to me, it does not hold water, the argument which says that there is no longer any interministerial committee, because the seventh, Parliament actually does not have any IMC. No, the president actually did not establish IMC based on individuals. He actually named ministers, and those ministries are still there and functioning. I think it was only incumbent upon the Minister of Police as chair of the IMC to actually convene the meeting of the IMC, which was constituted based on ministries, not individuals. And I put it to you, Honorable Minister, that there may have been a neglect of duty on that one. What would be your response on that?
My response is that there can't be neglect of duty, which is not there. There is no IMC in the 7th administration.
Okay, no, thanks. And I will also apologize, Minister, that yesterday, or I don't know whether it's today, you said you are now wearing mkwanas and you're smelling mkwanas, to quote you correctly. But I can't help but keep on, referring to his evidence in chief when I ask questions, because he's the person who made a clarion call on the 6th of July that landed us into where we are now. Mr. Mkhonazi, or General Mkhonazi, was very, very adamant in saying that the letter of establishing the PKTT was not written by the minister. And knowing the minister as I do, as you have correctly also confirmed earlier today, then I was taken aback, because I know that Umatingwane has capacity to do things, including drafting that letter. But Lieutenant General Mkhonazi insisted that no, Honorable Minister would not write that letter. But when I went through the bungles here, I came across a letter which was written to a certain Meriti Haas, to the minister. And if I were to quote some of the things that she said, in paragraph 1, she says, I request that you, meaning the minister, 1, instruct the National Commissioner of SAPS to immediately disband the irregularly constituted, unnecessary, and wasteful political killings task team. The use of the word disband immediately. Then one goes on to look at the letter that the minister has actually written, the directive of the minister. It also comes with the word immediately. Then I want to believe that that actually is what prompted Lieutenant General Mcunu, among other things, to believe that the minister actually did not write this letter. What would be your take on that, Honorable Mcunu?
There is no evidence whatsoever that that statement is based on. The letter was written by me at my home, and it was dispatched from my gadget. That that statement was made doesn't mean that it is factual.
Well, thank you. I don't want to pursue that. But the fact is, this is Meriti House, and you know that we all know Meriti House, and we all know her role in the violence that actually took place, unfortunately, in our province. She always played a desktop kind of research, which actually did not help in resolving the conflict that, resulted in the death of so many people in that province. So I don't want, because she would be coming here, I don't want to say anything more about her. Safe to say that some of the families are still bleeding because of her role in the unnecessary conflict that actually occurred in KwaZulu-Natal. The IMC, Honorable Minister, kept on receiving reports, progress reports, that the PKTT was doing an excellent work, up to the point where in 2023, I think they met for the last time. But in that letter of dissolution by the minister, the minister says the PKTT is adding no value to the operations of the South African police services in the country. I want to know where does the minister base that kind of conclusion when the reports tabled before the IMC, when the state president at some public engagement confirms that indeed the PKTT is doing a sterling work. Now the minister says it's adding no value in the police activities in South Africa. Why is that contradiction, Honorable Minister?
Honorable Member, I have throughout the day said I acknowledge that the work that the National Political Killing Stars team is a factor in the reduction of the killings in KwaZulu-Natal. And I repeat that as I do now, confirm that. But I'm saying we need to look at the context now, where we are. And it says no longer required, no longer in the context of the structure that is now there, in the context of reduction, in the context of reduced budget, in the context of murders throughout the country that police need to attend to using resources. So it was not just a statement in isolation of the context in which it was said.
But Minister, if, as you had correctly pointed out earlier, that the battlefield which actually had resulted in a lot of killings in this country, murders and so on, is in KwaZulu-Natal, why would you not be happy if the PKTT was doing, excellent work in KwaZulu-Natal, so that you could actually replicate what they are doing in KwaZulu-Natal in other provinces as well, and have a reference point of good work that the police are able to do in actually curbing the scourge of murders?
You definitely wouldn't have any resource to do that, to replicate it in the country, but you would be able, and you can be able to use the model. And in fact, I had been calling for a meeting. I wanted material, I wanted facts to meet the Minister of Justice because of a lot of complaints from police in relation to the work in the Department of Justice relating to prosecutors and magistrates and so on. We were wanting that. And so that the model is good of closer working relations between police and prosecution is a good model. And that is what you can replicate. But to say you can create a bigger or other political killings, and you do that on top of units like organized crime, units like serious and violent crimes, and then you build another structure, you will end up spending all the money on structures as opposed to fighting crime on the ground. It won't happen. You just don't have such resources. So the model, yes, but the structures you needed to reconfigure as they did, and I endorse that, and I go accordingly. That is what I thought would be the benefit from the experience of the national political killings task team.
Part of what actually influenced your decision to disband PKTT were comments made by Patricia Mashele. Who is that? Somewhere she is actually mentioned as a whistleblower. But if you go through her postings, she comes across as a police informer. I mean, who is Mashele, Honorable Minister?
Yes. As to who she is, I did say that I wanted to get to know more about her, and I did. It's not to say that I was merely mentioning in the affidavit that there were certain things that she wrote, not to say that they were deciding factors, those things. I just said I noted what she wrote, but there were other factors, and there are other factors. So I don't think that we can elevate her role as a decisive factor in the letter.
Part of what actually, prompted Lieutenant General Mcunu to cry foul on the disbandment of the PKTT actually is also to be traced in the evidence statement which was made by Brigadier Kunene, where he actually says that on the 6th of December, they were part of a group of detectives coming from Gauteng and others from KwaZulu-Natal to assist the Gauteng group that went to actually see Matlala at his place. Now, they feel that immediately after that, a plan was hatched to actually dissolve the PKTT because presumably it was beginning to tread where angels fear. And as a consequence of that, the letter of the directive of the 31st of December 2024 emerged. But they feel it strongly that it actually emanated from their, meeting with Matlala with a view to actually investigate his involvement in the criminal activities in Gauteng. They suspect that triggered actually the directive. Would that be a fair conclusion on their part?
Not at all. Not at all. There's no correlation between what police did in Matlala's home or to him with the decision or the directive. Nothing at all. I don't know anything about criminal syndicates. I don't know anything about any meeting that would have taken place anywhere involving or not involving SBIA. If there is something that hints on SBIA and whatever intention, let the law take its course. But there is no link between whatever happened and the directives. In fact, I'm not even sure whether there's anyone in police who came to brief me about what happened on the 6th. I don't remember getting any briefing. And therefore, there's absolutely no correlation. But also, to say so is not backed by facts, because those cases that you are referring to, this one being one of the three, were being dealt with by police in Gauteng. And the National Political Killings Task Team came to assist at some other point, at some stage. Now, if you really were taking exception on the activities of police in relation to the arrests that police were making, then you were misdirected if you write a directive that doesn't have organized crime in Gauteng, but instead has a National Political Killings Task Team who were assisting, and 10 of them. It doesn't correlate from where I sit, not at all related.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. When the National Commissioner was here leading his evidence, he actually expressed grave concern that the minister did not consult with him when he actually issued the directive to disband. Equally so, Lieutenant General Mkwanezi felt very strongly that he ought to have been consulted as a provincial commissioner about the disbandment. The National Commissioner even said that on the 27th of December, he wrote to the minister asking for the annual leave, which was granted. The following day, the 28th of December, he was with the minister at Iskawini at the burial of one police officer. the minister did not indicate any inclination or any intention to dissolve the PKTT. And on the 30th of December, the National Commissioner goes on leave. And on the 31st of December, the minister actually writes this directive, and he sends it at 20 minutes past 5 to the offices of the National Commissioner. Now, I strongly also feel that there was lack of consultation here. And General Khumalo, who was actually given a direct responsibility to lead this task team, also was not consulted. Now, I just cannot figure out why the minister actually feel that he did not need to consult all of these people. Would it be okay to think that, no, this was the minister's calculated move to exploit the situation where the National Commissioner was on leave? So that was why he actually even used the term disband immediately, so that by the time he comes back and finds out that the PKTT actually had been disbanded. So, ngolimi oluqondile ngathiwa uMinister omlalela uNyendlu, National Commissioner. Some people might think that the minister actually waylaid the National Commissioner, using the opportunity whilst the National Commissioner was out on leave. How would you respond to that, Mr. Minister?
Not at all, Pangazit. Angulala Ngwenyendle. I didn't waylay him. As I've related repeatedly, that it wasn't a calculated move, as you say. Not at all, not opportunistic, not at anything. It was just a culmination of processing of thoughts, as I related in terms of earlier dates. But I would want you to note that statements were made on the 1st and the 22nd of November on the matter. Myself and the National Commissioner on the need to review. Yes, on the actual culmination of those processes, when I wrote, I didn't consult the National Commissioner. I admit to that, but I do also admit that there was indication that this was not an act of switching off like lights in a room. We were going to have discussions later on, and that there were a number of factors that contributed in me reaching that decision. But it was not because I was waiting for the National Commissioner to leave for any reason, because we were discussing with the National Commissioner openly, and we had good relations, and it just happened the way it happened, but no waylaying whatsoever.
But, Honourable Minister, there was an acting National Commissioner in office at that time, Lieutenant General Musikili, and she does not appear anywhere in the picture of all these happenings. Was not consulted. I'm not sure whether she saw this directive, because there is no mention being made anywhere in the statements of the role that she played as an acting commissioner in office at the time when this such a big decision was actually taken. Did the minister actually ever had any conversation with the acting national commissioner in the office at the time?
The instruction to the Chief of Staff was to direct the letter to the National Commissioner and to the acting National Commissioner, and that happened. I got confirmation thereof.
Minister, a lot has actually been said about the role of Mr. Brown Mokgotsi. What is disturbing to most of us here is the access that he seemed to have in sensitive information in the office of the minister. He seemed to have privileges that even senior police, leadership actually do not have. Somewhere he is actually, Matlala was arrested and found with, cell phones in prison, and then they were confiscated. They were taken for digital, analysis, and it was discovered that, in fact, Matlala had been actually having conversation with Mkhosi. And in one of their conversations, somewhere he said, and I quote, "I have arranged a meeting for Sbia and the minister. They must have a solution." And he goes on, he says, "The task team that came to your house and harassed you have been dissolved. They got the letter on Monday. As we speak, they are bringing all dockets to Sbia." This is Mkhosi talking about things that actually had not even happened, some of them. And this is the conversation which is said to have taken place on the 1st of January, if I'm not mistaken. Now, this is this Mkhosi. And he goes on to pick up the phone and tell Lieutenant General Mkwanazi that, "Look, Mr. Mkwanazi, your PKTT has actually been dissolved." And Lieutenant General Mkwanazi is hearing that for the first time through Mkhosi, not from the minister, not from the national commissioner to whom he reports, but from Mkhosi, an outsider, a free man, a civilian. Now, how is it possible that Mkhosi has access to this kind of information, Honorable Minister?
Honorable Mwango, I have indicated that there is noticeable change in Mkhosi's conduct and behavior, which is very concerning, which I wasn't aware of before. How he relates to who and so on. For the best part of our interaction, it was just not contaminated with anything, I would say, or maybe say that I was aware of. I've only become aware now that there are commissions and so on, especially the Madlang Commission, where these WhatsApp were read and so on, that I got to know the rest of his doings and relations with other people that all the time had never been mentioned in our conversations with him, not once. Now, and I've said it raises concerns, and once you become aware of that, you are bound to take certain decisions, even review such relations, because I don't want to have whatever relations with people or a person who's this questionable. I've never done, it has never happened before, and so on. And therefore, the fact that he came up with WhatsApp, with a WhatsApp to General Mkhonazi indicating that he is aware, he has a letter and all of that. I wouldn't be able to say exactly until I'm through with what I'm trying to check as to what actually happened in terms of how he got to be in possession of the letter. And therefore, I would say that it's a concerning matter, register it as such. I wouldn't have expected that that would happen that particular way. But it is important to emphasize that there's not a piece of any document that I ever gave to Mkhotsi or sent anyone to give Mkhotsi that document, or any document whatsoever. It has never happened. It has never happened.
Mkhotsi actually goes on to fundraise for what Mkhonazi in his chief evidence fundraise for the minister's associates. He fundraised 38,000 rand, which he got from Matlala, to, among other things, pay for the transport and accommodation of, quote unquote, the minister's associates. And organized even a dinner which was actually attended by, among others, Lieutenant General Spear. He agreed to that. He even shared with us that at the end of that dinner, Mkhotsi simply disappeared without paying the bill. And General Spear, ended up actually footing the bill. That surely cannot be the actions of an ordinary comrade. Honorable Minister, Mkhotsi is, through his actions, comes across as more than just an ordinary comrade to the minister. How are we going to deal with that?
No, firstly, I share the concerns that Honorable Malema was articulating, and I share the concerns that you are articulating. That he rather has a conduct and a behavior as you relate. And I do confirm that I only came to know about all these activities now, and as you see, they are all close to each other in terms of, they are not related to something like 2018 or 2020. I never heard anything about his behavior and his conduct. So I only get to know about all these things now. Now, what are you going to do about it? Review that, because that is not something I must take and I would have taken for granted, or I would take for granted, that I have somebody interacting with them who are said to be involved in all these kind of activities, as is getting revealed at the moment, as you indicate. It just can't. That is what I'm going to do, review this and so
on. Let's come to Lieutenant General Mkhonazi. When he was here, he said he actually had knocked at every door, actually looking for an ear that could actually listen to him. because he was gravely concerned about the goings on within the police service. He said he wrote to the minister, he sent a message, actually pleading for a meeting with the minister in order for him to actually discuss the issues that affected the work of the South African Police Service. But his pleas for a meeting actually fell on deaf ear insofar as the minister is concerned. And that prompted him to even write to the portfolio committee, asking the chairperson of the portfolio committee to please invite him so that he could share with the portfolio committee the problems that they are facing, because the minister would not actually grant him that opportunity. In fact, you conceded yesterday that yes, you did receive that request from Mr. Mcunu, but you did not see it, necessary to meet with him, especially because in his message, he said he was going to talk about issues that affect his work and his family. Now, why, Honorable Minister, would you not give Mkwana an opportunity to meet with you?
Firstly, I do need to put it clear that I never read anything in the WhatsApp about the National Political Killings Task Team. And I never had an impression that we were going to discuss that. It's not mentioned in the WhatsApp. What is mentioned is him, General Mkwana, and family. Two, it mentions internal matters to SAPS as an organization. And those matters, I couldn't figure out how Mkhotsi would feature in that. But thirdly, I thought that it wouldn't be proper for me to call such a meeting with that kind of people and to discuss, even if it were to be internal matters to SAPS. I wouldn't do that as a matter of principle, call Mkhotsi to be part of that, because he's not part of SAPS. Now, it's not like I ignored the letter. Instead of that, I decided that the meeting would take another form, or the proposal would take another form that it took. National Commissioner and Deputy National Commissioner, and then Deputy National Commissioner and General Mkwana, to try and have them to talk because of concerns that are there. The kind of rift that is there involving those personalities. So therefore, it's not necessarily true that I ignored the request for a meeting to discuss National Political Killings Task Team, because it was not indicated there.
Well, thanks, Honorable Minister, but I find it very, very, very concerning that a provincial commissioner of the province that is plagued by political killings for which a PKTT had been established to deal with. He wants to meet with the minister to discuss internal operations, and he's denied that, because the minister responded by saying, acknowledging the message was received, saying that the message was received, will revert at some point, and has never reverted. and that point had not come up to this day. Now, I was a bit concerned about that. Now,
But I do
yes.
want to come back on that to say I didn't see that meeting taking place in that shape. I couldn't see it. So I think, and that I decided that it would take another form, and that there was no mention of political killing stars team. But I did indicate to General Mkhonas that, well, I still owe you a meeting, not in that form, although I didn't explain it that way. I was thinking of meeting him alone to say, what is the issue on yourself and family, so that I understand the angle. What are the internal matters, so that I understand the angle, and why Brown Mkhotsi would need to be there. I didn't understand those matters at all, and therefore I didn't see my way as said.
The National Commissioner, when he was here, Honorable Minister, he bemoaned the fact that the minister would also not grant him the opportunity to report on the activities of the PKTT, because he felt that the minister's directive was not based on facts, because he, as National Commissioner, had not actually had any opportunity to present the progress report of the PKTT. And he recounted instances where he had actually wanted to give the minister, the progress report, but in vain. And ultimately, he even came up with a plan, because he felt that the dissolution of the PKTT could not actually be done overnight. It had to be a phased out winding down of its operation. So he came up with a plan. And he says at the Cape Town meeting, the minister was in principle agreeable to the plan, subject to minor changes there, here and there. But at the subsequent meeting, the minister actually was no longer interested in that. And he said what was established through political intervention will actually be dissolved through political intervention. So he was no longer interested. And the National Commissioner was actually frustrated. Why that attitude, Honorable Minister?
Oh, sorry. Not at all. The only issue on the 27th of March in Pretoria was that we had agreed that there wouldn't be any additional docket on the work of the of the National Political Killing Stars team. And when we arrived there, there was now one case more. And we were then saying, how has it happened that you have added instead of winding down? That was the only issue. That was the only issue. No other issue. If there was, it wouldn't have changed the agreement that we had made on the 6th, that fine, this is the way, phased approach, and so on. It was a good proposal with minor things, as I say. They were still minor on the 27th, but that was the only issue. And I don't think we should exaggerate any other matter or any other issue that form part of the discussion. So this decision still stood, or the agreement that that was the correct approach. There was no problem. I did, however, hear when I saw the commission or the ad hoc committee that National Commissioner was saying, I was quite angry. I wasn't. The issue was on the commission, Madlanga Commission. The issue was why add an issue after having agreed another docket, and it wasn't being against police working and arresting. It had nothing to do with the act of arresting. That was a good job. I even went to the funeral of that councillor. It was well done by police. But it was now different because it was there was that case. It would have needed to be explained, just explain that, look, there's this and this that happened, but we're sticking to the agreement and the process. There's no problem. So it shouldn't be exaggerated.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The issue of the public trust in the operations of the police, it's undoubtedly has a deficit now, because what comes out of this process is playing out negatively in the public domain out there. So there is a great deal of work that would need to be done to restore that public trust in the operations of the police, because they need public trust. I'm not sure whether it's fair to ask the minister how he hopes to actually restore that kind of public trust, because it has eroded. The fact is, it has eroded. And the second concern is that I just pray that out there, the minister should not come across as leading a faction within the police service. The minister would actually need to work very hard to be seen to be above all these, quarrels and activities, and also be seen to be mobilizing whatever resources that are there to actually quell this kind of, instability within the police service, because it's not helping to create trust in the operations of the police. What would be your take, Honourable Minister, on that?
I agree with you entirely, Honourable Member. And I don't know where this faction-like kind of situation in the top brass of subs, where it comes from. All I can say is that when I came, it seems to have been there already, not that it got created after I arrived. It may not have been showing, but it was there, seemingly. And that's why, among other things, I called a meeting with National Commissioner and Deputy National Commissioner. There could be some root cause in the past, whatever it is. Now, I have put on record that when National Commissioner briefed me about the investigation on Sibia, I supported it. It was not to prove that I'm not aligned to anyone, but it was a matter of principle that if he has done something unlawful, he needs to be pursued. He needs to be pursued. The same actually with regard to General Khan. When I got the report that said he is also being investigated from National Commissioner, I said I support that, because if he had done something wrong, he needed to be pursued. And therefore, I thought that that was demonstration enough, or partially a part of it when I came across that incident, that I had no special sympathy for anyone who found themselves on the wrong part of the law. It should take its course. So the perception, in fact, with National Commissioner, we discussed at some point that there was rumor that I wanted to remove General Kumal and put General Khan and all of that. And I said that that's pure rumor. There's never been anything like that. And I saw no reason why such a thing would happen. And therefore, I would dispel that notion. But I do want to also say there needs to be much more seriousness in police in doing their work. 2 weeks before the media briefing by General Mcunu that he had convened, I had convened a meeting with National Commissioner and with crime intelligence. That included SBIA and included General Kumal and other people, I think 2 other people, which National Commissioner hardly attended except for the 10 minutes, came late and then left earlier. So I was with the 4 people or so who gave me a briefing for more than 2 hours on syndicates in the country. First it was on drugs. It was the first and the only briefing I got elaborate on drugs, because I was worried, where do drugs come from and how do they get distributed and where, by who, and what routes and so on, because we wanted to get to the bottom of this. So they gave me that briefing, even though this other syndicate that is now being mentioned wasn't part of the briefing. I don't know why, but it wasn't part. But we went on to discuss firearms, illegal firearms, in that meeting. Now, that is what I was interested in, to get us to do that work. I even asked, is National Commissioner aware of all these things that you are detailing to me? And they said yes. And I said, why has no action been taken? They couldn't give me an answer. I would have preferred that police at all levels busy themselves with crime prevention and crime investigations. But as human beings, I do take a point that they would cross each other's paths for some reason. It happens to organizations, but it is worrying. It is part of what then erodes confidence, because they end up talking about each other, bad-mouthing each other, and showing no unit, and that is worrying. But what you're saying is true, that there needs to be a lot of work that would need to be done to restore and to build up in terms of confidence to police from this situation. I agree.
Well, thanks, Honourable Minister. My last point is in relation to the admission which was actually made here by Lieutenant General Spear, to the effect that Mr. Matlala was a well-known character within the leadership of the police. He actually frequented the headquarters of the police, parading in the corridors there, moving in and out of offices, because he was a known character. But when we asked Spear, being the head of intelligence, did you have, the kind of background information about Matlala? And then he said no. And now that Mr. Matlala is in prison, is in jail now for the allegations of murder. How does he feel about that? Now, I'm asking this, I'm sharing this with you, Honorable Minister, to indicate to you that no, our brothers in the leadership of the police must really help this country. They should not allow this country to go to the dogs because they are lax. How could someone actually parade up and down the corridors of the police, police headquarters, without being vetted, without whose background is not known? Now, Matlala is in prison. How much does Matlala know about our crime prevention strategies that are actually, cooked up in those offices? Is it not a shame that all along they have actually been harboring a criminal in their offices? Now, this brings me to the issue of Nkabinde. I'm not in any way saying that Nkabinde is a criminal. He has not done anything to that effect. But his role is very questionable. Because from where I'm seated, ilokho kuthiwa yixoki. Uthathe indaba ngapha kuminister azise kumkhwanazi, athathe indaba kumkhwanazi azise kuminister, ixoki lelo. He is actually setting you against each other. Now, that role cannot be acceptable to be played by a chief of staff in the office, in such an important office in the country. So I'm happy that the minister actually has said he's going to attend to those matters concerning Mr. Nkabinde, and I'm happy that he might actually come before us here, because he would need to explain a lot of other things. But Macingwane, the role of your chief of staff it leaves a lot of concern to all of us. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Minister, do you want to comment on the last remark that the Honorable Mwango has made?
Of course, yes, I share the concern, because even if there is a perception which is negative, it tends to be expanded because it's a perception and it's negative. And therefore, it can't just be left. It needs to be addressed so that there is no doubt, even if it's not factual, that what is happening there is clean and untangled to anything. And therefore, these matters, including what, as I said, Honorable Malema was raising as concerns, I share them and will address them as such. But they shouldn't be taken as facts. For instance, what you're talking about, Bangazita, the issue of dinners and so on. I'm hearing about those things post-happening, and I really had nothing to do with them. But you then get to know about that behavior of people who are involved. I don't know even the people who were said to have been invited to dinner. It was the first time I even heard that Sbia himself was part of the dinner. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that, because no proposal, no approval, nothing. I just had nothing to do with that particular dinner. That is what I would want to submit. Thank you.
Honorable Vessels, are you ready to receive the flame? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good evening, Minister. Minister, with all due respect, I must admit that after these 3 days of your testimony, I'm not less confused, I'm more confused. And I don't think I'm the only one. So I'm going to revisit a few issues that has been interrogated and that you did speak to before, but I don't have concise clarity on a lot of it. Let me start with, you mentioned a few times the extensions that were not granted to the PKTT post 2022. And then you also gave evidence that prior to 2022, the extensions and how the extensions were granted. And if I understood you correctly, you said that those extensions were granted by the National Commissioner in consultation with the Minister of Police. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. Minister, now, if that is the case, did you have the power to extend it? To extend the PKTT?
The power.
Yeah. In your opinion, would you have been able to grant an extension?
Yes, if that was the procedure and that was required in terms of PFMA, I would have. I would have considered the matter.
But you say the National Commissioner had to grant the extension in consultation with the Minister.
Yes.
So not the Minister alone.
Pardon?
Not the Minister alone.
I suppose so, in terms of the extension.
Because that's what you said, that extensions
Yes.
were granted by the National Commissioner
Yes.
in consultation with the Minister. I would argue it was actually and should actually be after consultation with
Yes.
the Minister, because there's a big difference. But in any event, would you not, if you use that same logic, won't it then, can it be that it's acceptable that disbandment follows a different procedure? Shouldn't that also have been the National Commissioner that disbands in consultation with or after consultation with the Minister? How do you understand that?
I would say that we did hold a meeting on the 1st about the need to review, and on the 22nd. Let's put that aside. And that this process had been coming a long way, including in 2004, in 2024, when the implementation process got placed in the office of the National Commissioner to sign, which he only did a year later. Now, I imagine a situation, if that had happened in 2024, probably wouldn't be here. If that implementation of the structure, which would have replaced on time the National Political Killing Stars team, if that had taken place and not delayed, we wouldn't be here. Because that had been the view that was prevailing in SAPS, and they had worked for it, and they invested in it, and they came up with units that were gradually coming in. But when there was then a delay of a year, in particular from 2024 to 2025, then it put a delay to what would have happened in the manner that it was designed. But then to come to your question whether it shouldn't have happened that way, let me just throw in something. At the back of my mind as well, when I wrote the directive, there was this thing that we would need to talk, would need to discuss, because it was not a fait accompli. that saying you have now hit the wall. I understand the meaning of immediate. I understand that. But at the same time, I think everybody should understand that in the same directive, you call for a preliminary report. Say in the preliminary report, there was then a different idea. It still would have been a preliminary report put forward by the National Commissioner.
Yes.
In the other meeting that would follow after that, it still would. So it wasn't like disband, done, finished, no talk, nothing, no report, nothing.
Thank you, Minister.
It wasn't like that.
I'm going to interrupt you because I think you've made that point throughout your testimony and you articulated that point well. The fact of the question is, when you wrote this directive, did you view it as a very drastic step? Was that your thought process, that I'm now taking a very drastic step?
I have this to share with you in response to you, that in police, there are certain things that you need to act on a little bit strong in the department if you want to get things done and done on time and correctly. Not so much different from any other department, but something that you need to show seriousness on, that it needs to be done, especially considering all the factors that I've put forward, including possibility that we might have been acting outside the PFMA. That is drastic on its own.
When did you become aware of the fact that those extensions were not granted?
Now, in the last 3 days that I spoke about in the year, after circling down, then over and above the information that I got at hand, this issue came in to say, look, there might be this particular problem, but I wasn't sure about it. It merely added on what I already had, and leading as an issue of concern was the manner in which we were using the budget. And vis-a-vis the tremendous pressure that we have, which I would want not to be, I would love that we don't lose sight of. Murders in South Africa are very high.
I think we all know that.
And
Minister,
other crimes, including drugs.
I understand
so
that.
If you have something drastic that you need to do, don't spare any moment. Don't wait. Do that. So
Yes.
there was that kind of thing. That's why I even convened a meeting, just to express my deep concerns about this. And we shouldn't get used to murders at this rate. And we shouldn't get used to investigations on murders being categorized as normal for other people, requiring to be conducted in a normal, traditional, and then for other people, you then add speciality and so on. That is damaging.
I agree, Minister, but now the question is, I think a lot of people will say that it almost seems as if you made a decision on the 31st of December, and then afterwards, you try to find a lot of justification for that decision. It seems like that. Because you can't clearly state what you did about these concerns. Yes, you had the meetings. Yes, you had the meeting in November. But you didn't. If there is this completely illegal task team, according to your version now, that is contravening the PFMA, that is unauthorized expenditure, irregular expenditure, however you want to put it, but you disband it. Rather than, if it doesn't exist, you can't disband it. Won't you agree with me? Because if it wasn't extended, as it should have been, it didn't exist. So why the need to disband it? Why didn't you act in a different way then? And won't you then say, because you did not, that it can be perceived as you looked for a lot of reasons now? You looked for the letters from Professor De Haas. You looked for the post from Patricia. You looked for all these justifications. Maybe they're there, they were there, but you didn't act upon it. You only acted on the 31st of December. In, as you also agree, a very drastic step. What would you say to that?
No, I would say that not exactly. The issue of structures is an old one, of specialized units. It was there. I didn't look for it after. It was there. The issue of concerns, external concerns, were there, even at the portfolio committee. The issue of internal concerns started shortly after we got appointed, that were coming from some officers. It was there, but we didn't have a certain way of processing that, an easy way of processing that. It was something that we worked on. We had a meeting, we didn't discuss the details in terms of how to engage on the matter. It was left with me. So I then started grappling with those matters amidst a lot of other things. If there was anything that came after, yes, there were things like that came after, like the statistics that came on the 5th of March, that we had registered one fresh incident of political killing, like the fact that that was the reduction and the extent to which it had gone. So there were a number of, I would say, minor issues that came in, and so on, including the comments by CFO. But there were these fundamental things that were there, which I felt we needed to answer at some point or the other. It didn't crop up that that day would be the 31st of December. It just happened as I sat down and processed things quicker when I had circled. But these things were there. And I, to be honest, I didn't mean any ill about them. I just meant they just came in as things that need to be done to register some of the changes that are required. Remember that they included, as I said, border management, especially what is said to be happening at the airport. People are not vetted. With all the things that are happening, they're opening us to all the things that it's happening. Those matters are drastic, are serious matters requiring serious action.
Okay, let's accept that, Minister. Did Brown Mogotsi ever speak to you or correspond with you via whatever means with regards to the PKTT? Did he ever speak to you on this task team?
Is your question that did Brown talk to me about PKTT?
Correct.
Not at all.
Never.
No.
No,
not that I can remember talking to. In fact, he never spoke to me. I never spoke to him about that.
Did General Sibiya ever come to speak to you about the PKTT in particular?
Not before.
Yeah, I'm talking about prior to 31st December.
Not before. It never happened. He couldn't have done so because where would he be getting the idea from? Because I didn't have the idea myself. So he couldn't come unless he would have come to make a proposal. And I'm saying nobody made a proposal like that to me. Not one. Now, the letters of Mary De Haas, I noted those letters. But they are not the letters that instructed me to do that. I considered matters holistically, and came to that conclusion.
Spoken a lot about your chief of staff, Mr. Nkambine. What was his posture on the PKTT? Did he ever advise you on the PKTT?
Who? Spear?
No, Nkabinde.
Kabinde? No, not at all. The only time he said something about PKTT was when we had the meeting on the 6th. And during that discussion, he raised his hand, and then I gave him the opportunity, and he made a remark, which is not something that he does frequently, or regularly rather. And he made a comment. And my reading of his mind was that he was supporting me on this. More than any other thing that I could have registered at that time.
Let's, for a brief moment, assume that that your version, Minister, is absolutely correct, that your intention and your motive to disband the PKTT was pure and makes sense and was sound. Why would the National Commissioner and General Mcunu go as far as they are going currently? Why would there be a press conference? Why would they say that the motive is this correlation between the PKTT and organized crime and Matlala and all of that? If we assume that your version is the gospel truth, what would you think is their motive, their rationale for doing this?
I've tried to think hard about this. Why are they making a correlation about this? What is it that is concretely on the table? But I can't avoid looking at what they are saying exactly as a starting point. They are saying, as an allegation, in disbanding or in writing that directive of disbandment, I wanted to protect crime syndicates. Now, before that, 2 weeks ago, I'm thinking, and I started thinking immediately after I heard that, I wanted a list of drug syndicates or any other crime syndicate in the country, but I was more on drugs and firearms because I regarded that as very troubling. So I get the list per province. We're discussing, it's a confidential meeting, and a document is handed over to me. I ask questions, even asking where possibly these drugs come from, what is the composition of each of these drugs, where do primary and secondary components come from, and how. We discuss those matters in confidence. What routes for those that come from outside, and who? And what do we have inside the country? So we're serious, we're discussing. Now, one, you note, there was no big five there, which means that the list was not exhaustive. That is the least I could say. Now, if I made this inquiry, and then after that, I settled with the directive to disband, why do people, or why does anyone, for that matter, come back to say, I am protecting crime syndicates? And how? And who is this? Because from where I sit, I didn't know that Mkhotsi has a link with anyone when I wrote this. I had, even with Matlala, I had no idea. because it had never been brought to me. So I sit and I write that. So when all of a sudden, I'm said to be doing this to protect syndicates. Now, it can't be true. Secondly, these matters were investigated by Gauteng, organized crime, and they moved and they arrested. They arrested people, even if others got arrested afterwards. So if you wanted to protect anyone, why would you go for people who are assisting and not deal with people who are being assisted, who are leading the charges, opposing bail and do all sorts of things? Why would you do that? It's awkward. The correlation, there's no logic. You can only do that if you start with the narrative and then you tell the story that fits the narrative. I have nothing to do with any kind of syndicate, whether in firearms, whether in drugs, anywhere. All I know is that they need to be dealt with. That is why, among other things, we say create a division that is dedicated to harder criminals in the form of the operations and so on. So that was the design, not what I get told now. I have no links with any syndicate.
I understand that, Minister, but why do you think they want to discredit you? What do you think their motive is?
Well, you, as I say, you look at what is being said. When you do that, and there's a person who says there will be fight back, the composition of which or the content of which I didn't have, I can't help but bring that as a factor. Is this it or is it not it? Especially when it comes as personalized. It comes as more spearheaded by, because honestly, despite what National Commissioner said, the trend, the developments showed that we were working together on the winding down, as he was suggesting. In other words, we were moving together. There was no indication whatsoever. Now, all of a sudden, there's a change. Now, I can't help it that, oh, okay, there is discussion. Because part of the conversation, as I heard it, was that if I were a national commissioner, I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't have agreed. It even causing me to think, what is personal in the National Political Killings Task Team to a point where you can actually take a personal kind of stance on it and even say, well, the other thing on crime intelligence and on border management were fine. It can go ahead, but this one, what is it that would cause someone to say so and to think that particular way? But on my side, I don't have anything that I know that would cause people to behave in that particular fashion, to be honest. And I don't have anything. And I have no syndicate grazing close to me and me grazing close to them whatsoever. And there's no evidence up to today that have anything to do with any syndicate, if they are, on any crime, whether it's drugs or any. There isn't, because I don't have any relations with any crime groupings and so on. I've never heard. I can't suddenly develop that now.
Let's accept that version, and once again, that your motives was well informed to give the direction to disband the PKTT. In hindsight, Minister, is there any possibility that you were being used to hamper or to protect these crime syndicates? In hindsight, can there be any possibility that people used you to disband the PKTT to protect organized crime?
And what is the exact question?
Question is there such a possibility if you now look back?
Any possibility of people saying so?
Of people that used you at that stage.
That
That
in
you
fact,
thought you acted good. You thought you acted well informed. But actually people were using you like a pawn.
or I see that the possibility of any grouping using me,
Yes, correct. To protect
the-
organized crime.
there is absolutely none that can claim that with any evidence. Once a statement, if a statement gets made somewhere, just like statements have been made that I was acting to protect, I can't prevent a statement from being made, but there is no evidence. And in fact, the reason why there's no evidence is because I didn't act on behalf of any criminal syndicate.
But
Was-
unknowingly, maybe you didn't know it.
And how? If you could make an example.
If someone played you, fed you with information for you to act in a certain way, drove you to the 31st of December decision.
I derive a lot of confidence that Gauteng organized crime were the ones that initiated investigations against these syndicates, if you call them syndicates, or criminals. They were doing that. Okay, that's one. Two, they moved on very well with their investigations and their arrest. And there is nothing until 10 people come in to assist them. And for some other reason or reasons, there is a directive. Now, if there was that intention and anybody could then want to say we're using him, why didn't they use me if there was that possibility before the directive? Why couldn't they say, hey, there's this development and let's use minister to stop whatever was happening with those that were being arrested, were being pursued, and so on? It can't be. And so I'm using those facts to respond to you. But I also use the fact that I know that there may be people who may have been claiming that they would want or wish. Part of that is when I was looking at the WhatsApps, if that were in the Madanga Commission, where somebody would send a message as if there is something that has been discussed or can be discussed with you. For instance, after the cancellation of the tender, which I initiated, then somebody creates an impression that it's possible to come and talk to me about something about cancellation of the tender, about possibility of change. There was nothing such. There was no such. There would be no one who would have come to me about that. And how possible would it be? You initiate cancellation of the tender, and then somebody comes from somewhere and tells you something different. So I would find it hard that somebody could possibly be wanting or laboring under that impression that they could use me when I'm not one of them and I'm not involved in them. And I don't go anywhere where such people are if there is a talk like that.
That you know of, Minister, because you've said today that you didn't know of, for instance, Brown Mogotsi's association with Kat Maklala. But let's leave that there for now and let's go to the WhatsApp messages.
Yeah, I do want to respond and say, if that was Mogotsi's personal agenda or together with other people,
But exactly, that's my point. That's exactly my point.
if that was the agenda, I would say it never came to light before the letter of the directives, never, because it was never discussed with me.
I understand
It
that.
must have been something they were nursing, if there was such.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think you must think about that.
Okay.
If you weren't maybe being used exactly because of that. But let's go to the WhatsApp messages that you refer to now, and it's I think it's open in front of you there. It's in
Yes.
bundle 3 on page 80. If you go to that message that flows over to page 81. It was shown this morning on the screen as well, but you'll see that there's a response by you, and it's the message of the 26th of January that Mogotsi sends you, and it's the long message, and the end of the message, the last paragraph, reads, and you can see it there, also meeting with the DNC and COS, which I assume is the Chief of Staff, Cosman, today in Durban for finalization of the Kumalu and the General Mkwanazi matters. DNC is waiting for the COS here. This is very significant. Then you reply, Minister, by saying, don't unnecessarily. Don't unnecessarily. What does that mean?
Now, don't necessarily what?
No, that's what you wrote. I don't know. Look at the message, Minister. At the messages. Mogotsi sends you a
Okay.
message, you reply to the message. And your reply is, don't unnecessarily.
Now, I said Mkhotsi would sometimes send you messages that you wouldn't understand.
And then you wouldn't reply. That's what you said.
And then?
Then you didn't reply. You previously said during your testimony
Yes,
that he sent you
generally
messages you
I
didn't
wouldn't
understand,
reply.
you wouldn't reply. But you
Generally,
did
I wouldn't
reply.
reply. But in some cases, I would have replied. That reply, I must have been wanting to say, don't necessarily send me all these things that are necessary, that I don't understand. But I didn't complete that for some reason. But I must have meant that because when I received it, I just couldn't make sense out of it myself at that time.
Minister, with due respect, it's very hard to believe that because we spoke a lot about tone last Friday, I think, or Thursday. Your tone during your testimony, you use a lot, you use the words necessary or unnecessary a lot. It's your type, it's how you speak, it's your tone. If you read that message, also meeting with the Deputy National Commissioner and the Chief of Staff today in Durban to finalize the Kumalu and the General Mkwanazi matters. And your reply is, don't unnecessarily. That seems like an answer to that message.
No, no, I didn't understand what he was talking about. I meant to say probably, don't send me unnecessary message or something to that effect, because I didn't see what the purpose of that message and all these things that he was sending. I had no correlation of what they meant. And as a matter of fact, there was no such meeting. There were no such meetings. No such meetings ever took place. And therefore, had no particular meaning of what he was trying to convey. And I meant to say, all of this is not necessary. In other words, I don't even understand what it means and what it is sent for.
Minister, it seems very strange, but it's also very concerning, especially if one then, and it's hard not to connect the dots now. If one takes the message from Brown Mogotsi on the 1st of January to Kat Mklala, and you connect it to these messages, then it seems to form a picture. And usually the easiest answer is the correct answer. Life is not complicated. It's usually very simple. Let me leave it there. Let me ask one last question. Throughout all of this, and if one listens to the testimony by the National Commissioner, it's very clear that there's an irretrievable breakdown in your relationship with the National Commissioner. Although you said that you had a good relationship, it's very clear that currently you do not. Now, at this point in time. And if you were to be the Minister of Police again, if you are reinstated, how will you be able to work with the National Commissioner again?
How will I work with the National Commissioner?
After all of this?
What has happened right from the beginning when we started working, I expressed confidence to the National Commissioner, and we worked well. I learn now that while he was on one hand working in the manner that he did up to the 27th on the disbandment, National Commissioner may not have been genuinely committed. And in my view, he just needed to come forward and say, Minister, you wrote a directive. I have matters to discuss with you. Or he would have written a letter pouring out his own views or his own feelings. Now, without him writing back to me separately just on this, and or engaging me on this, except through the process that I had indicated, I had no other way of knowing, getting to know that there were issues. Absolutely no other way. I was left with no option but to assume that we were together. Now, what do you do now that you know? It means that now that we know how that behavior, or that behavior is there needs to be a way of saying there should be one way of working. Don't turn right or don't indicate right and then turn left, because it doesn't help anyone to do so. If you indicate right, turn right. If you indicate left, I would do the same, so that we are able to proceed with the work that we are supposed to do. That is my thinking at the moment about, that's my response to you on the matter.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Vessels. Honorable Minister, you know, South Africans can be very amazing. You know, today in social media there is a montage which is circulating. The montage is made of 4 pictures. The one picture is the picture of me, which was taken today wearing the shirt that I'm wearing. And there is another picture of General Sibiya wearing a similar shirt. And then there is other South African I could not identify. The shirt he's wearing is similar to mine and Sibia's. So the last picture is yours. Wearing gold and black shirt, but not a similar pattern with the three of us. So one of them said, Chairperson, can you check with the minister what his comment is about this, about these 4 shirts? I know you might have not seen the picture, but you will meet it in social media. Honorable members, I want to thank you so much. Senior Counsel, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for answering the questions to the best of your ability. At some point during the proceedings, we had to release Honorable Breitenbach due to other commitments. And Honorable Mwango and Honorable Vessels will not be able to join us tomorrow. Honorable Mwango has a committee of parliament which he must chair tomorrow. And we must congratulate Honorable Vessels in advance. He came to whisper to me that he will not be here tomorrow because they are expecting a new bundle of joy. So I said to him that I'm thanking him so much for his positive contribution to population growth in the country. We are coming back here tomorrow. The proceedings start at 11 o'clock. So, yes, honorable members, if you may please listen. Honorable Sangoni, Honorable Ntuli, Honorable Shongwe, Honorable Cameron, Honorable Sauls are the speakers who will take the platform tomorrow. So,
Honorable James.
Honorable James, yes. So it's going to be a session spanning 6 hours. Yes, it's 1 hour per speaker. We are starting at 11, breaking at 1, and then coming back from 1, run and take 2 speakers, coming back at 2, run to 4, and then 4 to 6. Honorable Sambo.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just clarity. You said spanning 6 hours.
Spanning
6 hours. Each speaker gets an hour. And not all speakers are full members tomorrow. Not all speakers tomorrow are full members. Others are alternates.
yeah, you are right. We will accordingly readjust. Look, it has been a long day, honorable members. I counted the number of speakers and forgot that there are some speakers who are alternates. But thank you very much for the reminder. I think it's something that is very understandable. So we will accordingly adjust it. Thank you so much.
Shongo was a very happy beneficiary of that arrangement of the chair.
Fortunately, there is one announcement which you are unable to make. Thank you so much.